Hi, everybody. It's 10:30. Good morning, Lindsay. Good morning, Alyssa. Good morning, Anthony. Thanks for joining us. We'll give people a little bit more time, just a little bit more time to join on in. How is everybody today? It's, well, I haven't gotten a chance. Well, it's kind of cloudy looking out the window. It's a little cloudy. It's kind of cold last night. The weather has not figured out what it's doing. Hello, Heather. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Renee. All right, well, we're going to get started. My name's Andy. I wear bow ties because dig this thing out. Bow ties are cool, yeah. Science Center's still closed, but every day, Curiosity Corner Live, we are going to bring science content to you every day at 10:30 and 3 o'clock. So make sure that you check in every day. We have a lot of cool stuff that we're going to show you. Oh, Elijah is here. Good morning, Elijah. Before we get started, I should tell you what we're talking about. Today we're talking about crystals, and I have an example of a crystal today. This is a geode that I used a hammer to crack open. And yes, I do tie my own bow ties. Every morning I tie one of these bow ties. And how can you describe this crystal? What do you observe with this crystal? Any features that you see there? The other side is not quite as interesting. It's just kind of stone-like, but it's hard, it's bumpy. Yeah, crystals are really bumpy. It is a real crystal. I don't know what kind of crystal, but it is definitely a real crystal. And crystals form based on how the molecules and atoms are arranged inside that material. So they are usually shiny. That's a good observation. They're usually kind of sparkly, and they usually have sharp edges. They're pointy. A lot of things can make crystals. Diamonds are an example of crystals. Diamonds are pretty much pure carbon, and they link together and make a really good lattice structure. That's what they call it. It's kind of like a three-dimensional net, and everything's just connected together and supporting every other atom and every other molecule. They're just held together really tightly. Another material that can make crystals is pyrite, fool's gold, and that's sulfur and iron mixing together and making very nice cubic crystals. They're shaped like cubes. There's another material that makes cubic crystals, and that's the star of the show today, salt. So that's labeled salt 2. This is salt 1. I'll bring them a little closer to me so you can see the whole jar. I'm going to be telling you how you can grow your own crystals. It's very easy, but there are some challenges that can arise with growing your own crystals. So I'll show you. Oh, this one's kind of stuck to itself, and it's all coming apart. Where did it? Oh, there we go. There we go. So this is a crystal that I grew. I'm going to try to bring it close to the camera without dripping on my computer, but you can see those white crystals there that have grown on this string. Oh, man. Well, thank you for joining us, Cedric. You didn't miss much. You just got introduced to the star of the show, the salt crystals here. And this one has a few small crystals on it. Try to bring it really close. You may be able to make out the cubes. At 3 o'clock, I'll show closer pictures of these salt crystals so you can really see the cubes, but they have formed very nicely, very, very strong shapes right there. Come on, focus on that thing. You can kind of see there's a little cube there. At 3 o'clock, I'll definitely get closer images of those. But this little jar didn't grow any crystals. So the skewer has nothing on it, and the string has nothing on it. Oh, Lindsay is asking, is it slimy? This one's slimy. This one is just kind of wet because it's been soaking in water for a few days. So these both had salt in them, but are there any obvious differences that you can see between these two jars? This one's a little smaller. This one is a little bigger. Cedric's question is, what is the largest planet on Earth? Well, Earth is the largest planet on Earth. In the solar system, the largest planet is Jupiter. On Earth, there's only one planet. That's Earth. Anyway, any differences that people see between these two jars? There's salt 2 and salt 1, and one didn't form any crystals, the other did. One major difference that I ran into, this one used pink salt, so it used a special kind of pink Himalayan sea salt. And because it's pink, it means that this has a few other minerals in it. And yeah, this one's brown at the bottom. It's a bunch of salt that settled on the bottom. Instead of making crystals around the skewer or on the string, it just kind of sat there and didn't do anything. And this one made some nice white salt crystals because this was pure salt. This had other minerals in it, and so it wasn't able to form. Wasn't able to form crystals in this one. So that is a key in science. When you're doing an experiment, you have to make sure the materials that you're using are the right materials. This could potentially grow some nice crystals. At the very end of the skewer, I see one single crystal, but that might just be a piece of salt that got stuck to it. And it didn't work out. I have some other crystals here, and it's a similar story. These are sugar crystals, and this one is just normal table sugar, and this one is powdered sugar. And there's some major differences between these two jars. This one's very murky. The powdered sugar is very murky. This one's very clear. Yes, bow ties are cool. This one hasn't formed much of a crystal. There's one crystal. So this one might take a little more time, but this one has formed a single crystal. And I'll try to show you that single little crystal on that skewer. You can kind of see it. It's not at the tip. That's a drip of water that I'm going to try to catch with my hand, but it's kind of close to my ear. There's that one tiny little crystal. Sugar is a lot more complicated than salt, and so it takes a little bit of time for it to form a crystal. Salt, this took only a couple hours before it started making crystals. And sugar took a little bit more time. I'm going to leave this one to sit a little longer so that it can form some more. The powdered sugar didn't work at all. This one's slimy. This one just made, it actually didn't do anything. It just made a slurry, a syrup. And the reason for that is, it is powdered sugar. And powdered sugar is not just plain sugar, it has cornstarch in it, which is something that I learned recently. This is not pure sugar, and so it does not form those crystals. Instead, the crystals are like, oh, there's cornstarch in here. We're not gonna do much. So that's the key to doing science. Make sure you have the right make sure you have the right materials. Speaking of which, I will tell you the recipes that I used to make these two nice little jars of crystals. Now, obviously, the sugar is going to take longer, so I will let you know the process that I used to make the salt and the process that I used to make this sugar solution. This looks promising. It'll take a few more days before it crystallizes. And yes, you would be able to eat these, the sugar crystals. And I mean, this is salt. It's technically edible. So here's how I made the salt crystals. So salt crystals, you take boiling water. I used about 4 cups of boiling water. Make sure before you start this experiment that you wash your hands very thoroughly because you're making food, essentially. And make sure you get a grown-up's help because you're dealing with boiling water. So you bring the water to a boil. You bring that water to a boil, and you start moving in a lot of salt. I'm not giving exact measurements because you start adding salt until the salt can't dissolve anymore. Just keep adding salt to that boiling water, and it will eventually just not hold any more salt. Then you can turn off the heat, carefully pour it into a jar, a clear jar like this, and stick. I put a skewer in there. You can put a string in there. The string worked really well. And make sure you have it tied or propped up to like a popsicle stick or a spoon, and it will allow those crystals to form. It should take only a couple hours before the crystals form. Sugar is a similar process. There's more specific measurements for sugar. For this, I used 1 cup of water. So I boiled 1 cup of water, and I added 2 to 3 cups of sugar, very slowly, making, add a little bit at a time, stir it in until it dissolves, and 2 to 3 cups of sugar until the sugar all dissolves away and it becomes clear. And then you pour that into a jar and put it somewhere safe. Somewhere it won't be disturbed, and it will eventually form a few crystals. Having a popsicle stick or a skewer or even a spoon could work. You have that in there, and the crystals will start to form over a course of a few days around that stick or spoon or what have you. So next week, when I join you next week, I'll show you how this setup progressed. Hopefully we get some nice sugar crystals going there, and those would make a great gift. Mother's Day is coming up. Speaking of gifts, today is Giving Tuesday now, and it's a day during which people from all over the world donate to charities, and the Science Center would not be the Science Center without the donations of generous people. So if you will join me, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has donated to the Great Lakes Science Center. They make programming like Curiosity Corner Live possible. So thank you very much to anyone who has donated to Great Lakes Science Center. The last thing that I will leave you with is a challenge. So my challenge to you is to grow your own crystals. Set up your own crystal growing station and share pictures of those crystal growing stations on social media with the hashtag StayCuriousCLE. And I'll be doing another video at 3 o'clock. If you make salt crystals, they might have grown a few by then. So if you start right after this video, there's a chance that you'll be able to grow some crystals before 3 o'clock, and I'll be able to shout you out at 3 o'clock. Be sure to come back at 3 o'clock because I'm going to show you some time lapses of these crystals growing, and I'll explain the process that I went through growing these, and we'll get some close-ups of these salt crystals. So thank you very much for joining me. My name is Andy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and stay curious. And don't forget, like and subscribe, because we are making all sorts of content every day at 10:30 and 3. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Stay curious. Bye, everybody.